Hello, everyone. So, I wanted to try something new this week with my weekly column that I write for the Dallas Voice called Trending Tea. And I wanted to share with you kind of a little bit of background and the inspiration as to why I chose to write about this week's topic and kind of like connecting the dots for you of why I chose the topic, why it's important to me, and what emblazoned me enough to write about it in hopes that maybe it creates a dialogue and also maybe deepens the work in some way. And if you are a writer yourself, maybe hearing my process will help you start formulating your own ways to connect the dots between thoughts, ideas, the language, and how all that transpires onto paper. So this week is my 17th trending tea. Oh, hello, hair. Is my 17th trending tea for the Dallas Voice. And if you've never read the column before, it is a weekly column where I talk about and I give my opinion on the week's biggest trending social media topic. Like, if you're sitting around the water cooler, this is the one thing you would be talking about all week long. Sometimes it's a TV show, sometimes it's Trump. A lot of times it's Trump. Sometimes it's music. It's really whatever the topic is that we're sharing on social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that we're talking about this week. And so obviously this week has been all about the Super Bowl, and I've gone through this whole I'm not watching the NFL because everything that's been going down with the Black Lives Matter movement and how the NFL and owners and the commissioner is trying to gag its players and kind of subvert them and force them into submission of keeping their mouth shut and not speaking their opinion. And so I've actually had major issues, and I wrote a trending tea last year about not watching any more Dallas Cowboy games because Jerry Jones is a fucktard. He's an asshole. So this week's trending tea is about how I didn't watch the Super Bowl. Like, for the first time since 1993, I decided I wasn't going to watch the Super Bowl because of everything that was going on, but also because I really didn't give a fuck about either team. I hated the Patriots, and I hate, as a Cowboys fan, it's inherent, like it's in my blood that I'm not an Eagles fan. So I didn't want to have to choose, and I didn't want to watch Tom Brady, who I think is a cheater and probably one of the worst quarterbacks as far as human beings to play in the quarterback position. I just didn't want to watch him win another game. And to me, all the Patriots are cheaters. It just is what it is. It's my opinion. So I didn't want to watch. I didn't want to watch the Super Bowl, and so I didn't. And while I didn't watch, because we don't live in a vacuum, because access to information is everywhere and social media is everywhere, I saw that the Eagles had won, and I had heard the week leading up to it this whole idea of how people, the majority of America, wanted the Eagles to win because they were the underdog, right? Like, nobody believed that they were going to be there through the whole season. They're like, there's no way the Eagles are going to win. There's no way they're going to beat Atlanta. There's no way that they're going to do this or that. So they became like this underdog to Tom Brady and the Patriots' whole GOAT thing. And so you can't help but hear things because we don't live in a vacuum, like I said earlier. And so this trending tea was really about how this whole idea of using the language of underdog, which is really kind of a much bigger term, and how they're using the word underdog, and how it's kind of ironic that here they are, they're like, hey, I want the underdog to win, cheers to that. And but in real life, they're doing the complete opposite, right? They're doing everything that they can do to stop anybody who is othered and or an underdog from gaining equal rights. I mean, to put it bluntly. And so when I started thinking about this, I also realized that the Super Bowl happened the day before Trayvon Martin's would have been 23rd birthday. And so all of these ideas of how, this rhetoric of underdog, and then, here is a section of people that are real life underdogs, and how we're not talking about how Trayvon and other black bodies that are being shot and killed on the street are life underdogs, right? I mean, trans black women are being killed at an astonishing rate, and they are life's underdogs. I mean, we as a queer, color, female, able body, we are all othered, we are all life's underdogs. And so this was kind of like this idea that I had in my head. I'm like, okay, how do I turn this into something that is readable? Because I mean, and something that made sense on paper. And so I decided to go with the underdog route, and I started writing about the Super Bowl. I actually wrote this starting on Monday after watching My Wife Loves Justin Timberlake. And I didn't watch the halftime show either, but my wife loves Justin Timberlake, and she's like, I want you to watch this. And I had no plans on watching that either. But I watched it, and before she showed it to me, she told me about how everybody on the internet was bitching about something wrong with Justin Timberlake's performance, from his shirt. I mean, the memes out there comparing him to, what's his name, Bob Ross, the painter. The fact that he chose to start his performance underneath the stage as opposed to on the stage. I mean, they were just picking apart everything. And so I watched it, and the only thing that kept going through my mind was, this is just fun. Like, he's having a good time. He's having fun on stage, and we as a society have gotten so high on our fucking horse that we can't even recognize just fun entertainment when we see it. And so that was where this piece started. It started with this whole idea, I want to write about we not knowing or recognizing fun anymore, because we're all so fucking PC serious, right? We're all so in our own minds and so serious about not offending anybody, or picking apart who's offending what and how it's offensive and blah. And so it started with that. And then, of course, as I started thinking about it and I started hearing more throughout the week, and I started writing it as an underdog. Like, it just started with the free flow of that. And then on Tuesday, so I wrote majority of it. So I wrote, when you read the article, I started from the it's official. There's no way of me getting around talking about the Super Bowl despite wanting nothing to do with it this year. So I actually started with that Monday, and I ended around the point where it starts, because the reality is, as the world watched and cheered Sunday night as the underdog team won the Super Bowl, that whole paragraph. So I stopped there because I knew I was missing something, right? So, like, as a writer, you start to feel what you write starts to take on a life of its own. And I had tried so many different things to end that little section, right? So I kept forcing it, and nothing just sat right. It just didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel like it wanted to be part of this essay. And so I slept on it. And then Tuesday I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to send it to my editor. It's going to be done. I'm going to do it regardless. And I tried to force it. And again, it wouldn't work. Like, I had ended, and I had been sitting on for 2 days, this sentence. As the underdog team won the Super Bowl, the real underdogs of the NFL and of systemic power and privilege, Black, brown, and other marginalized voices went completely unsupported all season by those very same people who are now celebrating their love for and cheersing the underdog. So that was the end. That's all I had written for 2 days, and I was so in my head that nothing would come out. And so I was like, fuck it, let's just go to the movies. And so last night, Candace and I went to go see I, Tonya, and that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother essay that maybe I'll write or get into later. But sometimes when you are a creative and when you're writing, the best thing that you can do is just get away. And as much as I hate doing that, because I feel like in order for my writing to be good, I have to live in it. Like I have to constantly live in it. Sometimes I just have to go, okay, it's going to be what it is. I need to just step away and let things percolate. I need to go out and experience life and just be. And so that's what we did. We watched the movie. I had lots of thoughts and ideas about another essay about Tonya Harding and about me and my response to it. And I was like, by the end of the night we got home, I was like, well, maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll just trash this whole Super Bowl essay and I'll just write about Tonya Harding. That didn't happen. I mean, but I did incorporate Tonya Harding into the essay because that's where it wanted to go, right? It's so weird how creativity and connections and synapses, how it all works. But that was the piece that I was missing, was this whole idea of Tonya Harding being an underdog. And then from there it went to, oh, it's not just Tonya Harding. I mean, hello, the biggest underdog who's been stripped from everything that they love and do is Colin Kaepernick. And that's where the piece wanted to go. That's where the writing wanted to go. And that's why I needed to take that break, was because it wanted that experience that I hadn't had yet. And as much as I wanted this to be a piece about having fun and not taking life so seriously and recognizing fun, it ended up wanting to be something else. And it wanted to be this idea of how sometimes if we want others to do better, like I want the NFL to do better, then we have to do better ourselves. Like we have to ask ourselves hard questions, and we have to be unafraid of the answers, and we have to be brutal with what we find and figuring out ways to better ourselves from the answers that we found. And that's where this trending tea came from, and my hopes for it is that it helps us, me, to see the inconsistencies and the contradictions and see them and explore them and ask really tough questions as to why, I wouldn't watch the Super Bowl, but I'm okay with watching the recap. Like, why is that? What is it? And finally being able to go, okay, well, I don't know. I don't know why it's okay for me to do this and not that, but being okay with the I don't know as well. And so that's just a little behind the scenes as to why and what and how I came about with this episode of Trending Tea. And I hope it served you in some way, and I hope you like it. If you want to read it, I have linked to the essay below, or you can go to dallasvoice.com and search Trending Tea, and the latest episode will pop up. So if you have a comment, if you're like, fuck no, you're so wrong, or yay, I agree with you, or you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Because really why I started Trending Tea and why I pitched it to Tammy Nash and the Dallas Voice was because I wanted to start a dialogue, like a real dialogue with real people who think differently or want to think differently. And so if you are in that camp or any other camp, leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. Have a great week, and I will see you next week for this little shindig. It was kind of fun. I hope you liked it. Okay.